and if you talk like about the transition from being a student to being the teacher, and then your experiences so far.
Absolutely. So graduating from Florida A&M, for me, yet again, I will shed light on, I am from if you could just imagine some the worst parts of Atlanta, I am from that area, and so as far as people going to college where I'm from, that wasn't a thing. Uh, I was one of a few people who went, and after me, a lot more band kids ended up going just because they were inspired and felt like they could. But prior to that, one or two here and there, and the going through FAMU, I did have struggles as far as even adjusting to being away from home, being in a higher education environment. I was used to being the smartest person in the room in my high school, but when it came to FAMU, this is a place with all of the, it's a college, so it has all these intelligent people. So that I think that took a toll on me, and but once I recovered from being not the smartest person in the room anymore, um, I went on and I did pretty well. And learning how to play horn at FAMU is the best move I could have made because it made me learn how to teach. I was teaching myself as a beginner, you know. Um, I was very methodical. I was forced to be that way. Really paying attention to the warm up, really paying attention to the things I was exposing myself to listening exercises, things to listen to, making sure I was listening to Barry Tuckwell, and listening to the Mozart concertos. Rest in peace, Barry. We miss him. We lost a good one. Um, but yeah, and then after I graduated, I wasn't really sure though. I think one thing that happens to horn players, we tend to there aren't as many examples because everybody doesn't play horn. So um, as far as examples on what to do after, I didn't get very much of that. But so it was a slow start to my career. My husband was finishing up his degree, and that gave me like a semester off to kind of gather my thoughts. And we both ended up relocating to his hometown, which was South Florida area, Miami. And I got my first middle school job down there. And I was so grateful that the way it happened, I didn't have to use all of my, things I prepared as far as like my resume and all that stuff because they needed a band director so bad. So I kind of went in there dressed like this with my hair in a terrible ponytail, and they were just like, "Oh, yes, you went to FAMU? Great, you can be the band director." And so that's how it happened. Thank God it happened that way because I don't know, I probably would still be looking for a job. But the trend, the going from being this you know undergraduate student to being a professional now, it was rough at first because now you have to put everything you learned, or you think you have to put everything you learned now to work, like all of it right now, you know. But you didn't, it kind of seeps out of you as you go along your career. But it was hard to decide what I should be teaching. The first thing that I saw though going into which inspired me to compose what I composed. Um, the first thing that I saw was, this is South Florida, so it's a very diverse area, and you just see kids telling you they're bored. This is boring. I don't want to play this. I don't want to play that. It was a lot of that, and and also this at the same time I was reading a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. You probably heard of it. It's by Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm pretty business minded, so that book spoke to me, and I transferred it to my music education, like my teaching. Making sure that I felt like in Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about how his rich dad was an investor, blah blah blah, but his poor dad was a professor, And not that I think, because I'm going to be a professor one day. Hopefully nobody calls me their poor mom. But he was taught, the biggest thing was that, you know, we're taught to go to school and get a job and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But we're not taught to invest and do these different things. And his rich dad taught him all that kind of stuff. And I felt like, well, what if it's the same way for music and band right now? What if we're teaching kids, you know, we're teaching kids an old way, antiquated, I'll say, just to use better words, um, way to function as professionals in the music industry? What if we're teaching them everything wrong? And that's why these kids are so bored, and they can kind of sense it. They can sense that they're being fed stuff that's not really going to help them once they graduate. Anyway, so that was my first year, and it completely changed. After reading that book, I changed my approach. I made sure that I was not being boring to these kids, because when they were boring, when I was boring them, they were crazy. They were like, my biggest class was this class of 54 kids, middle schoolers, seventh graders, and they were, you know, they were wild. The only thing I could do to calm them down was to write out these arrangements that they liked. So to write out, you know, a song that they wanted to play, Big Ballin' or some kind of hip hop song. Um, but that's how they learned how to play better. By the time it was time to do things like go to festival, I mean, these kids had amazing tones, and I'm just like, how did I do this? And most of it had to do with the fact that they just wanted to be there. So they wanted to play that stuff, so they would practice my lip slur exercise. You know, they wanted to play that, and that's just that. That's summarizes my. I'm in my 7th year now. Yeah, that summarizes that. Um, Write something they want to hear, they want to play, and they'll do the crazy stuff. They'll do the fundamentals for you.
Well, congratulations. 7 years is nothing to scoff at for sure.
Yes, it's been a tough 7 years, just dealing with a lot of the things that you deal with as a woman, I guess, trying to be a band director. It's been tough, but I'm not giving up, and I'm happy that I didn't.